we've been doing a whole bunch of just like designs around like IDE improvement and small things we can do. Some things we've tried to address is, we've heard like the model file can get really gnarly when you have lots of topics. Same thing with relationship file. Um, Also, finding things in the IDE is really hard sometimes if you're doing search and replace or you're just trying to like limit stuff down. And so we've done. I'll start with kind of like these high level things that we started with, and then we can, if we want to go look at like a bunch of like kind of like the sausage, we can go dive through Figma. Um, we reviewed these with Jess and I talked to Camo earlier this week and kind of talked over some of these things and just get a little bit of customer feedback. But some of the larger things that we've been talking about is, how can we structure it? What other metadata can we add to kind of give you context around it? And what other kind of small little interactions can we do to help maybe limit some of these files, especially working with large models or relationship files? So one thing we talked about is just like, as we restructure IDE, maybe we can start adding things like a metadata sidebar. If you're familiar with Looker's IDE, they did a lot of this stuff too, which we've heard from a few people that was really helpful. And so we could, what we put in this metadata sidebar is TBD, but like, we're just talking about like, can we put the model, some attribute properties in here? Can we like give you a list of your topics that you have defined and quick ways to jump back and forth through them? Also potentially some ways to like facet these things out at the top. So if you're in this model file and, maybe we can have like some topic facets, or maybe we can have view facets in here, which you could do. And so you could potentially click on these and then filter down the content of these. And then also just simple like ID interactions you expect elsewhere. Like, can we like have like collapse things in the gutter here where you can maybe collapse these down and do small interactions? Maybe we can have a top level function to collapse everything or expand it. As we
Jared, one quick thought here. I mentioned a couple of these. I think maybe to Ariel, but I'll file them too. But I would love to continue playing around with like the IDE, like the text area itself and what we can do from a UI perspective. The example that I would cite is like the DBT grain stuff. I think is really, really interesting. And if you just look on the left over here, if I just picked out, the first person I see, so Jonathan, and ask him to say like where the cuts are in between the different topics, it's like it's very, very difficult just visually to understand like what the tangible sections are. I think the nav here is a really, really good idea because just finding the topic that you're looking for is actually shockingly difficult. But I would love to think about like things that we can do where it can act as a text document, but it can also act as something with more structure. I have no idea what I'm really saying, or like maybe other tools do this, but just like visual navigation is actually more challenging than it probably should be.
Cool. No, I agree. I think like one thing I've also like been thinking about is like how can we make the IDE look slightly different than the workbook, because like now this layer is a little bit similar to when you're jumping back and forth and you get a little like very similar layouts, and it could be that. And I think like I think we heard good response from I forget who said, but the DBT read only section that Buck put in felt like it was pretty nice, and the customer felt like it was like, oh yeah, that really helped me see that section. And so I think one of the things is like using YAML here, the way we syntax color highlight is it can all blend together quite a bit. So maybe you can do some stuff like to help that. So I agree.
I love the topic nav in the sidebar though, because like that you think of them as different entities almost, and so that is I think that would be massive.
We'll just walk through this. And so this is kind of example of faceting. We do this in the field picker, trying to reuse some of those similar things. If you were to like maybe pop this open, maybe you can get a list of this again. Again, this can scroll. And if you have topic groups and other things, you need to look at how we sort those. But you could potentially click on these. I don't know how hard this is to do from a perspective, but we're living in not living in reality right now. If we can just do the design things like, you select a topic group and then we filter this file down by so maybe if you want to look at all your GitHub topic groups. Another thing we've heard too, and I have a couple designs I haven't pushed on too much, is like restructuring this completely as like if topics were their own files in the IDE, and that has pros and cons, right? Because this file list will get longer, and what do you do with all like these model attributes and stuff like that. But we did a couple designs around that too. We can go look at. Some other stuff that I would love to see if we could do is like if you select something, this is like inline blame, we start adding like metadata on type of stuff. Like if you were to like select a file, like could you annotate these lines and being able to like talk about like did this happen via like Ariel changed this 5 days ago and she did it in a PR. You can get a little context there. This is showing like if we had like maybe some sort of topic structure, you could click on these workflow runs and it would like maybe take you to that definition and the topic. So idea here is like you could model like how you may browse this in the field picker and just give you a representation of kind of like what it would look like when you're looking at a workbook. You have a similar action to maybe jump to definitions here. One thing I would love to see is if we could do kind of like IntelliSense on type of things. And if you were to hover over, Salesforce Opportunity Creator here, I've heard it's really hard to go find this uh, in the IDE and the side, like go find the actual relationship or go find the actual view that you're looking at. And so it would be able to really nice to be able to hover over this and give you like maybe a command click and it could just like pop it open and like take that definition and now you're here. Again, and then we've been pushing on like, okay, now if you're in the relationship file, maybe we can highlight certain metadata on here. Is this an alias? What are the from and to? And maybe click links to those, what topics it's used in, and just kind of like reinforcing this loop of like giving you context of everything within where you're at. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
Could I just ask a quick question?
Yeah,
Like I don't I don't code, obviously. I noticed that a lot of code editors do like columns where you can look at two different areas of the code base at the same time.
Yeah.
And I know we always avoided that at Looker, but I'm sort of curious. I mean, especially for the engineering team, like, do we think that's a thing that would parallel well to how we do things? And is it worth trying to think about stuff like that? Like, is it just browser tabs for us?
Right.
I'm sort of curious how folks think about that.
I will say I did allude to that here is like we have multiple tabs open in the IDE. I forgot to cover that. And then a little split view here, like where you could
Oh,
maybe pop these up side by side. I didn't mock
interesting.
those interactions up, but I'm planning to go do that to
Okay, so
see
you're
how
already
hard it would
thinking
be.
about it.
But
Okay,
yeah,
you're
so
way
I
ahead of me.
think this is just much more like typical IDE experiences. Like this is what you expect in like VS Code or Z or some of these other like more modern, even like older ones like Sublime Text or whatever
Okay,
IDEs.
interesting.
And so if we want to like make this a really rich feature complete IDE, like I think those are kind of small things that would really help. I'm sure they're hard to go do. And so I mean engineering can chime in here, but or not, and they can just go build it. So it'd be great. Anyway, so like and this is like getting back to some of this fasting thing. So if we were to have like, this IntelliSense type of thing, if you could maybe open this, and what I'm kind of alluding to here is like you can pop open this view if you want to go join a Salesforce opportunity, or if you want to see everything inside this relationship that uses that view, you could maybe click that and it would like then use these faceting things. Okay, cool. Like these are all the joins relationships that use that Salesforce opportunity. And so kind of like reinforcing this, you can facet it or you can quickly jump to where you want. And then you can like open the metadata up and, get that other context. This was an iteration based on some feedback from Jess, and I think also from Jack when we were talking about it. Like, how rich can we make this metadata? Can we, show like the created at, who updated it, or do we have the ability to like add a note? Like, if you want to like on this metric, like add a small metadata note, and you don't have to be on all of them, but maybe you can just like layer this in. Do we have the ability to like pull out, key attributes about it? Can you set it in the sidebar? Like if you're looking at it, like if you want to switch a format, if you don't want to go look it up, can we just like do nice interactions where you can, turn these off? And these could be like switches if it's, hidden or ignored. You can just like tap it once and you don't have to go look at the definition. And then also one thing I kind of pulled from, Looker, which I know is really helpful, was like kind of like the quick reference. I shoved it all in the sidebar instead of like, making it tabbed or split. Again, we can look at the how busy this gets, but I thought it'd be pretty nice not have to like jump back and forth between tabs and go there. So that's kind of like the high level mocks that we talked about. I have lots of other iterations that we could go look at, but there's some of the ideas that we're thinking about.
No, those
Another
are awesome.
interesting thing to shove in there would be like, what layer is this touched? I
Yeah.
mean, some of
Yep.
this stuff gets really hard though.
Yeah.
Yep.
Usage metadata would also be like, I think the holy grail would be fields and then a link to all the pieces of content. Like, even if it was sort of asynchronous or something, I don't know how you would do this, but I think it would be incredible if you could actually cite a field back to where it's used from the modeling experience, and actually trace the dependencies forward. I have no idea how you would do that. And the other thing I would say is I don't think it's terribly important that it's like real time or anything. Like we could batch the data once a day or something else, but showing the fields that are used and the fields that are not used in line would be very, very cool. I don't know what we would need to do that. One other small tactical thing that's probably worth, like Jared, I would just probably say go poke around in a model and do this. Search is also very, very challenging. Like I can say, especially when you go into a customer's IDE, you'll paste in a thing, and we'll just find 100 different things in the sidebar, and it can be very, very difficult to actually, like, usually I find that I'm looking for a view file and you can't immediately see the things that are coming back and what they are. So I would love like a quick, probably not much, but yeah.
Let's show you quick what we did here, but like we were
Yeah.
doing a little bit talking with Ariel, like do we do and how do we organize dynamic schemas versus static schemas? And so this is like a representation of like Omni's instance. And so I was also playing here with like pulling these out as topics as like their own folders and what that looks like. Just out of curiosity. But like, yeah, so like we're talking about maybe we can restructure this slide bar slightly to show like if dynamic schemas are changing, maybe we can give them their own prominence in the UI, put them to the top and maybe highlight them a little bit, give them information. I was toying around with the idea that like searching in the file area just searches for like the file names and not the contents. And then we can have like a potentially richer search when you go into, let me see where I did that at. Have some search. Oh, find files. Cool. So if you have like a little potentially its own like search area when you're looking for the contents of files, and so maybe you can click to it. We could do things that you expect in other editors like regex search or matching whole words or cases, being able to find and replace. So if you were to like search for something, there's like Salesforce, like we can pull out the model files, a little bit of structure here with like maybe some line highlighting, pull it out, color it, and then being able to like put this down, like if you want to match the whole word, you can click a button. So here you're just looking for the whole word Salesforce, regex, being able to like potentially like replace, and then like all files would be like, okay, show me just the view file, show me just the field references, show me just in relationships. So like trying to give a richer search experience that's not difference between finding a file versus finding content. Another panel.
Like, that makes perfect sense. Like, if I can project for a second, I'll show you where it's like very the hard part is not, it's not like we obviously are indexing everything, but if I top an opportunity, like I don't actually know what any of these things are. So it's hard to say, like, I don't know which one of these is the view or a field or something like that. They're all just sort of the same. I guess none of these were a view. So I guess these are in the top, I guess these are in the model, but it's I never figure it out. And so what I ended up doing is searching, and then I close this out and then I go hand navigate to it, is like usually my search workflow. So
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's tricky.